It's AJ again from Headshot Cafe. We got a special treat today, guys. We have Beverly Leech over here who's written a book called Actor Muscle, Craft, Grit, and Wit, a professional guide to the business of acting. I read this book, didn't read every page of it, I'm not an actor, but I went through it, and there's some great stuff. I love this book.
Thank you.
It's the same reason. Oh, Beverly, welcome. I forgot. I went right into your book. I'm so excited about this. It's the same reason I started the blog. I've been doing headshots and printing and working with actors for close to 30 years.
Right.
And I find all of them, like you say, have their craft. They know how to act. They can do Shakespeare. They can do, but they don't know anything about the business of acting.
Nothing.
What's a good headshot? What's not a good headshot?
Right.
Okay. So we'll get into that a little bit. A little bit about you. How did you get into the acting? Where did you start? How did you land up in Los Angeles? I know you did New York a little bit. You did some Broadway.
Yeah,
in New York.
I did.
What brought you to Los Angeles?
I did time in New York. I did.
You did?
Did time. I earned my bones. I actually got into acting by accident. I was a professional dancer. I'd been trained by the Houston Ballet, and I was very artsy-fartsy, and I was working
in Texas.
In Texas and in Florida and throughout, and I was working with some really heavyweight modern dance companies. It was very artistic. And but I used my body to express myself physically, and so I was a professional dancer. And to make money, I started doing musical comedy, and I started working in the chorus. And they kept pulling me out of the chorus to do bits and really small roles.
A traveling dance?
Yeah, I was doing regional theater, and I was traveling. I was really working the regional markets, and I would drive to Florida and do that, and Georgia and Texas and all over in the South and Southeast. And eventually, I got supporting roles, and then larger roles, and then larger roles, and I realized when I was around 24, 25, I was working a lot as a dancer at that point, and getting really good roles, and but I was watching my friends who were phenomenal, but they were 30, and they weren't getting the jobs because they were 30.
Already too old for it.
Already too old for it, and yet they were at their peak. I mean, they were phenomenal dancers, and I began to assess my place, and I thought, okay, it's obvious that I'm being pulled into these acting roles. I better train for acting like I did for my dancing. I mean, I didn't cut any corners with that. I went to professional dance companies and big companies and really got solid. So that's what I did with my acting. I went to really good teachers. And
where were we at this point? Are we in Texas?
I was at this jumping off point. I was in Texas.
In Texas, okay.
I was in Texas, and then I had everything set up to go to New York, and I got this opportunity in Los Angeles, and I really thought I was going to be here for 2 weeks, and 4 or 6 months later, I'm still here, and I've got 2 agents and an apartment.
You were in New York. What brought you to Los Angeles?
I wasn't in New York yet.
Okay.
I eventually went to New York through Los Angeles. It was crazy.
Oh.
I literally had my stuff in storage, tickets to New York, a job waiting for me, a sublet and a roommate. I had everything set up, and literally 2 days before I was supposed to leave, I got a call. I got a job in Los Angeles. My agent said, "Just take it. You can delay your flight," and the rest is history. But eventually, I had really great agents here in Los Angeles. Yes, it's possible. You can get good Los Angeles. And they got me the Broadway job.
So most of our audience is aspiring actors, filmmakers. How'd you get your first agent?
Oh, I did it the old-fashioned way. I would send out packages. I assessed where I was in the industry. I didn't go too big because the big ones will find you.
Okay.
So I went to nice medium-sized boutiques, and I would send packages, and they would say no. And then every time I got
the package included a headshot,
cover letter, resume, headshot, and then sort of and in the cover letter I would tell them what I was doing lately, and then give them tickets to whatever show I was in. And I was just persistent. I wasn't a pest, but every few months I would send it, and I really had an idea of who I wanted to represent me. And one day she did come to one of my shows, and she signed me the next day. So, but in the meantime, it was good for me because I was still continuing to submit myself. I was very proactive. I would submit myself to TV or commercials or stage or whatever I was doing, and I continued to build my chops and my resume.
Even after you had an agent? You were still submitting
yourself?
Oh,
no. Once you have an agent, you got to let them do that. Yeah, they get kind of upset when you do that. Yeah. You let them do their job. That's their job.
And then So you started going out on auditions
Uh-huh.
and learning over here and going to classes. And,
Right. I continued to train even while I was working. I always do that.
And then your first role, every actor remembers probably, your first paying role as an actor in Los Angeles. Do you remember?
Mm-hmm. In Los Angeles?
Yeah.
Or just first paying role?
Well, you were a dancer and on a dance troupe, and also I'm sure you got paid for all the theater and all that.
Yes, and that was back in the regional theater sort of.
So in Los Angeles, TV, what did you first book? A TV, a movie?
I was on Star Search. And that's how, and I, that was the job that I booked. And he's like going, that's just incredible, Star Search. And that's what I thought. Here I was, this theater rat, and I was very full of myself, and I'm an actor, I can't do a game show. And yet, there I was on a game show. And, but you know what? It did help me get those agents. It did help me make enough money to land here. And I just had to start over. I just really had to start over. And my agents did believe it. They understood who I was. They understood that I was more than the game show. But I had to start over and go to casting calls and do it consistently so that the casting directors would get used to me. I think the first job I ever got was Meg Lieberman. And, oh gee, what was the name of that show? It was so long ago. I'm an old codger. I'm an old dog.
You've been in the business a long time.
Yeah, I've been in the business a really long. I've been in the business since I was 9 years old.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but I started out as a dancer, so that was a whole other thing.
When you were auditioning and submitting for agents and all, this is pre-digital.
Yes.
So we're doing it with black and white headshots, and okay, we're going to jump
and composites.
forward. Yeah,
How about composites?
Composites.
Remember
really
those?
cheesy. When I started in 1980.
Those are cheesy. Yeah.
I started in 1980. We were doing composites.
Right.
There's a picture on the front and 4 pictures on the back.
That's
with
right.
the agency logo all in black and white, and it looked like a Xerox copy. So you've seen this business change tremendously. Like I have too.
Like
but from an actor's point of view, now with everything being submitted digital, is it still the same process to get an agent or a manager?
It absolutely is. I just went through this, as a matter of fact, and it's so funny that you brought that up because one of the last business classes I taught, I taught them how to put the hard copy package and send it to agents.
Yeah.
And I said, on top of that, if you want to sign up for these, talent scouts and talent links and talents where agents find you, you can do that online digitally, but they still prefer a package. And in the agency books, you have to read it. I mean, actors, it's not that they're lazy, they just don't take the time to read the agents.
We had Matthew Lillard in here in Headshot Cafe, and he said actors are lazy.
Okay, all right, get off your ass and roll up your sleeves and get moving. But you have to take the time to read it because some agents do prefer email, but every single agent that I recently sent out to, every single one of them said, I am so glad that you sent me a hard copy package because they are human beings. They move, they work with their senses. They like to feel the photograph in their hands, they like to see the picture. Oh yeah, they're very tactile, and so you have a stronger impact. And not only that, with the internet, somebody in a trailer park in Nebraska could figure out what the agent's email is and send them and say, my boy needs to be a star.
Yeah.
And they're flooded with emails. And most of them do not get seen. And it's also some odds. It's the same thing with auditioning.
Mm-hmm.
People go, how do you handle rejection? Well, it's not. It's really math.
It's a numbers game.
It's a numbers game. Nobody books everything that they go out on. So if you book 1 out of every 15, then you have to go through the first 14 to get to the 15th one to book it. So it's not failure or rejection. It's a necessary part of the process. And it's the same thing with agents. I took hours to choose the right-sized agency for my career level.
You mentioned that in your book. You've got to do some research and don't go for the appropriate agency that you think could represent.
Yeah, because they have to have good contacts, and you also have to have the kind of resume that they can pitch. They can work with. And so I found 14 agents, but I sent out 30 packets because I sent out 1 packet to the head of that division.
Okay.
And I got really specific about it. A lot of actors make the mistake of sending it to just the agency And the agency has a print and a voiceover and a sports and a, you know, they don't send it to the right person.
So if you want them to represent you commercially, send it to the person in charge of the commercial
That's
department.
right, or the theatrical.
Okay.
Yeah, don't send it out to every agent. Yeah.
And with emails it gets difficult because it's just like info@so-and-so agency and you don't know who's going to see that email. In your package, more than one headshot, more than one picture? What do you suggest?
I think it's according to the actor's budget. Most agents, it's okay if you just have one. Yeah. But if you have some skills and you have a different look that you know is really marketable, you know, because a lot of, let's say commercials, they're character driven now. So you have your depression pharmaceutical ads, and you have your girl next door, and you have your athletic coach, and you have your goofball comedic, and then you have like tone and sort of that gravitas of a doctor, you know. And so some people like to put in a light comedic and something that has a different tone to it to show some range.
It never hurts. If you can afford it and you can do it, couple of different characters, couple of different pictures, not a problem.
Yeah, but that's not a hard and fast rule. If all you've got the budget for is one picture, that's enough.
Now, if you don't hear back from any one of these 15 or 14 agencies somebody sends out to, how long do you wait before you bug them again? Or do you?
I
or do
usually
you move on to another group of agents?
I move on.
Okay.
I move on. I feel like I really do think that agents open their mail.
Okay.
I really do think they do. And they take a look at the picture and the resume and they put you on a to-do list. But it takes them a while to bring your picture and resume to the agency meeting because most agents meet once a week collectively. So you have to give them time to get it, pull their to-do stack out and go through everything. So I give them about 2 weeks. And if I haven't heard anything, I have another 8 to 10 ready to go out.
And also if they already represent somebody with your look or a couple of people with your look, they may not want another one.
They may not want it. So why am I going to push that? Oh, listen, they're coming to get me.
You know, this happens in every interview we do. This happens in every... Okay, so now you start...
I need to get him.
Now you start auditioning and you start booking jobs. You got a good agency backing you. And your resume is extensive. You've been on Mad Men, and you know recently you're on a show that's Rizzoli and Isles.
Rizzoli and Isles, yeah.
And you're a recurring character on that.
Yeah, that was such a nice surprise, like a little gift, you know. Because the breakdown, it was the tiniest of scenes, but in parentheses at the very end of the breakdown, it said possible recurring. And I thought I could either treat this as a co-star or a walk-on, or I could really invest some of my craft into this and bring some meat to just those few lines. I didn't make it a 3-act play, but I really filled the character.
So this takes me to another question here, which I was going to go somewhere else, which we will in a minute.
Okay.
But when you saw possible recurring on the breakdown, do you audition differently for that or if it said just a co-starring role for one episode?
I prepare differently.
You prepare differently.
I audition the same every time.
A little bit more for these for actors.
For the preparation or the audition?
The preparation for the audition, and what do you do in an audition? What makes a good audition? Okay.
What makes a good audition are the standard wisdoms like listen and respond, you know. And I really am a big believer in if you go to the words first, you'll fail.
If you go to the words first, okay.
If you go to the words first, you will fail. And that has been my experience, strong experience. I can strongly suggest that most actors make the mistake of just learning their dialogue without really looking at the stage directions or considering where they are. And for instance, if you only have 5 lines, let's address this to the co-stars. If you only have 5 lines and you know you have a clear idea of how you want to do it, don't interpret too soon. That's the other problem. They interpret too soon. And they memorize and they get locked into a line reading that they can't bust out of. Don't do that too soon. If you have those 5 lines, you're going to say it differently if you were in a confessional booth, confessing a sin to, you know, a priest, than you would if you were, you know, really drunk with your naked in a closet with your girlfriend and you just sort of blurt something out. You're going to say those same 5 lines differently if you're suspected of murder and it's in a police interrogation room. So you have to think You have to think about the whole thing, about where you are, who you're talking to. Are they friend? Are they foe? You know, that sort of, do you have a past? And so with the co-star, I don't invest a lot of phony plots or phony pasts, you know, phony intentions, because suddenly 3 lines turns into a 3-act play. But when it says they're possible recurring and it says she's an alcoholic, a bad alcoholic and a bad mother, I think to myself, okay, in my preparation, I'm going to spend a few extra hours thinking about the alcoholic mind, the kind of damage a bad mother would do to a daughter that would cause her to run away from home pregnant and have her baby someplace else.
So you're building this whole character around those lines that you're going to audition.
Yeah, but based on the facts of the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big problem a lot of young actors get is they're trying to impose phony plots and relationships on things that don't exist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how do you get from here to teaching? What got you into teaching? And you're not just teaching like a lot of people. There's towns full of actors.
Tons of teachers
who had some success, a little bit of success, and now they're teaching.
Right.
Okay. I mean, you're teaching at Stella Adler.
I was teaching at Stella.
But you did teach there.
I did teach there. Yeah.
So how do you go from an acting career, which you're still doing,
I'm still doing that,
to teach at one of the big teaching schools?
Well, first I had to get over myself. Because
and as an actor, you managed to do that?
I managed to do that. It's shocking, but true. I had to get over myself because, you know, there's that old, like, cryptic statement, you know, those who can do, those who can't teach. You know, like you're a big flop if you're teaching.
Yeah.
And the truth is that Stella Adler was an amazing master. And she was a big advocate of, if you don't give it away, you're useless. You know, it's all about the work. The rest is ego and bullshit. And so when I was recruited, because I'd studied with her, when I was recruited to teach at the studio, I had a big problem. I was like, I'm not a teacher.
Was that your first teaching job?
It was my first teaching job.
So you studied there?
I studied with Stella, and I was working, and then they said, gee, we have an opening, and we know you really practice what you preach, and we'd love for you to be a part of this. And I'm going, I'm not a teacher, I'm an actor. You know, I had to get up, one more time, I had to get over myself. And so what I did was I audited a few classes, and Irene, who is, rest in peace, Irene, thank you for the opportunity for that, let me sort of jump into her classes whenever I had a note, and I realized, oh, this is exciting. I'm watching someone wake up. It was one of the most exciting things I'd ever seen.
You really enjoyed teaching?
I enjoyed watching people flower.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching people who apparently had no talent turn the light switch on and access everything. I enjoyed watching people who had massive amounts of talent but were like a bull in a china shop. It was like having a race car engine and not a license to drive a car, you know, it's so now I was connected. It was like this sort of thing, who's the teacher, who's the student? So even though I was waking them up and shaking the bag and
you were learning from them.
I was getting back this whole other thing.
Can anyone be taught to act?
If you have talent, I think you can.
You can hone that talent.
And even if it's a little kernel, you can be really great at this, you know. But it takes a while to figure out if you've got any.
For aspiring actors who are spending money going to acting school and going to acting coaches and all that, how do you know you're in the right place? You've got an acting coach that works for you?
Well, I don't think that all teachers who are good teachers today necessarily have to have an acting career to back up their words. Okay. There's a lot of people who have a good legacy behind them. You know, Larry Moss is a great teacher, but he studied with Sanford Meisner and Stella Adler. Michael Wilson is also from the Larry Moss studio, and he's a great teacher too, but he doesn't, I don't mind plugging other people. I'm like Santa Claus in Miracle on 34th Street. If you can't get it at Macy's, go to Gimbel's. Yeah. But, so what do you look for? You look for someone who has, I really think that anybody who's Stanislavski based is good. I also double check all of the credentials. I double check.
You talk about that in your book. There's
I
a lot of
do.
scam workshops and a
I
lot of
do.
scam costing workshops and all that kind of stuff. And we'll get to that book. We're still at your teaching right now.
Right. So how do you know? You look at the work records. Are there people booking? Are there people like working? Do you have like do you see growth and spontaneity in the class? I also look up the credits of the teachers. If they don't have, if they're claiming to be a TV and film actor, you know,
And it's easy to check it today.
it's
You can
so
go on
easy.
IMDb, check it.
You can check it.
Yeah.
You can see if they've got it. I mean, I've actually done some background work. I was asked to teach at some studios and some other ones, and I almost did. And then I found out that the website was amazing, and he seemed so impressive. And then I found out that he really didn't have the credits that he had on his bio, when in fact he was an extra in a soft porn film. And I like went, and yet people were drinking the Kool-Aid. They just, some people are just great masters.
Good salespeople.
They are good.
Yeah.
You know, so how do you know the difference between a good con artist and it's difficult. You just have to do your homework, and you have to listen to your instincts. Like I wouldn't have looked up that guy's credit.
Something told you look it up.
Something told me to look it up. I don't ignore my instincts. It didn't quite sit right. It all looked great. He had a wonderful building, a beautiful studio, an impressive website, and I just like went, he's not who he says he is, you know?
You've got experience and credits in acting. You've got tremendous credits as a teacher. I mean,
Thank you.
credentials. I mean, Stella.
I'm working on it.
As
I'm
a
working
teacher.
on that.
Now what brings you to an author? I mean, what gave you the idea to write this book? And the process, then we'll get through this process of putting this book together.
The process, this is the book he's talking about right here.
And you got a CD, DVD
Right.
on.
But that's not the plug. But this is the book. The reason why I wrote this book, and it's not very big.
Yeah.
See that?
So
it's a professional guide. It's because when I was teaching at the Adler, they were spending all of their time developing these really great actors. And I know that there are hundreds of really great actors out there, and you've spent thousands of dollars on training. You really have a legitimate training, but they don't teach you how to audition. They don't teach you how to set up a resume. So all of these people are graduating, and I got hundreds of phone calls after every graduating class saying, "I know you work. Now what?
Now what? Exactly.
I've got all this training. I don't even know how to find an agent. I don't know how to my resume is sloppy, and no one's biting at my resume. And I'm looking at the resume and going, well, yeah, it looks really amateurish. Who set this up for you? I mean, the presentation, it has to be a professional presentation. So anyway, I was sort of doing this for a lot of actors, and these kind of conversations take hours and hours. And eventually I was picked up by some other academies to teach a formal class, and that was great. And I had all of these materials that I always update every year. And some of these actors, because actors are lazy, and I'm kidding. But seriously, I do wonder about that, because they would take the class and I would show them, I would literally show them, okay, this week we're doing a resume. A year later, they would still call back and say, I can't find my materials. What did you say about this? And I would spend more hours on the phone with them, and I thought, I don't have enough hours in the day for this. So why don't you take your teaching binders and actually put it in a form, and then if they forget something, all they have to do is look it up on page 102, 64.
One of the reasons I love your book is because there isn't another one out there like this. It's the business of acting.
Thank you. I think there is, but not like this.
Not like this.
Yeah.
Really, there isn't. It's not because you're sitting here. I mean, you're sitting here because I think this book is great, and it's important to my clientele. That's all aspiring actors. A couple years ago, I spoke at the SETC's convention in Atlanta, the Southeastern Theater Convention. Well, you got these kids coming out of theater arts programs with 4-year degrees in theater arts, who can all probably act.
Right.
And then they're let loose from their college and they go to New York or Boston, Los Angeles, Chicago, wherever, and they don't know what to do. I see them in my lab. They come in and they don't know a good headshot, they don't know how to get an agent, they don't know how to write a resume. They've never been taught this.
Even if you don't want to do TV and film by coming to Los Angeles, if you're cut loose from a big art school or theater school, you still have to know how to do a resume for New York.
They don't know how to interview.
They don't know how to interview. That's just the worst.
And, I mean, my experience
and
is
there's
all,
tons of interview and meeting techniques.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
tons of it in
my
there.
experience is
So.
all in the headshot business. So
Yeah.
I see headshots, and I see these kids wasting so much time and money on bad headshots over 3 months, 4 months, 6 months.
Isn't it sad?
You can always make up the money, but I tell them you can't make up the time you lost.
You can't, and
No.
it takes so much time. That's the other thing too. It's not that actors are lazy; they wait till the last second and they go, "Oh my God, it's pilot season. I need an agent. Oh wait, I need a photograph."
Yeah,
you know, and they haven't got their materials
Yeah, and
together.
one of the reasons I love your book is because, okay, maybe actors are lazy, not lazy, whatever.
They're not lazy.
They don't
They're
know.
Just, they don't know.
They just don't
They're not
know.
lazy. They just don't know.
You know, no one's taught them this stuff. No one's
Right.
told them, you come to Los Angeles and now what do I do?
Right.
And now things have changed. So, okay.
Yeah, and I've got
So
the game plan in here. This is what you do
Yeah,
first.
it's,
this
there's
is
some
what you do
great
next.
information.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
some great information.
I've laid it
in
out
there.
in the order that you would do it. So.
Labor of love. How long did it take you to do this?
Well, you mean including the times that I've been teaching since 2000?
Yeah,
So
when you started to, when you decided you're going to now put all this information together and put a book out and a
it
DVD
took me 11 months.
11 months.
It took me 11 months, and I was pretty focused. I'm very organized.
You are.
Here I am.
Okay.
I'm very organized here. You should see my office at home. I have tons of manuals and materials and things, and I just took all my teaching manuals. I began to trim the fat first. I got a good proofreader, and yeah, it took a while. It took about 11 months, but of steady work.
Okay.
I just focused on that, and I still did the acting work. I still kissed my husband goodnight at night. It's not like it was,
Yeah, it's not
you know,
like you locked
Hemingway
yourself
and I
in.
locked
Yeah.
myself in a
Yeah.
cabin in the woods, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, so 11 months of steady work, and I was lucky. I found a great editor, a really great editor who knew exactly what to do with.
How did you find a good, by chance, or did you know this person?
Well, I didn't know this person. I found a great proofreader who was a wonderful screenwriter, an amazing screenwriter, and had a lot of work. So she helped me clean up a lot of the fat in the beginning, but I needed an editor to help me put it together. I took a chance and I followed my instincts one more time. I found this editor who's in Portland, Oregon.
Wow.
I went through Elance. I went through this Elance website. Have you used that?
Yeah, I know off the website.
Yeah, and you know, I submitted this job proposal. I have this rough draft. It needs to be put into a print form, and then eventually like a digital ebook. You know, who knows how to do that? And I laid out what I wanted, and I went through all the resumes, and I took a chance on someone who had really helped several authors publish a lot of books. And she just really knew the ins and outs of Amazon and Kindle and all of that digital. She just knew how to format it, put it all together in the right format, upload it for me. So it took some time. It took me about a month or two. I had to be real patient. I have to be real patient.
Are you a patient person?
I am not
No.
a patient person, but I've learned, just like you were saying earlier, you make the wrong choice in the beginning, you lose all that time. You lose a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and I put in the effort to find the right person before I pulled the trigger and said, okay, here's my opus. it's not that. Yeah. But you know.
No, there's great information in it, and you know, from a point of view of an actor, as a teacher, and as somebody who's still acting.
Yeah.
One thing I want to touch on, which is something that's so new now, is the taped auditions and the self-taping of auditions. Your opinion, how do you do them? Should you do them? Should you submit for roles? If you see the breakdowns yourself, expand a little bit on, because with this digital technology, there's so much available. And
yes.
Auditions are going online. People are getting them taped. I think we've done a couple for you.
Yes, you have.
A little bit about the process, what an actor should be looking for in their self-tape, because now they're not getting any feedback from a casting director sitting in a room. When you go in the old days, you went in for an audition, you sat in a room, maybe you got feedback, maybe they didn't say anything, which is still feedback.
Right.
You know, now you're doing it in a casting suite somewhere by yourself in a camera and maybe a reader. So what downfalls, what should an actor look for to get a good self-taped audition to send out?
Okay, first of all, just generally speaking, I find that self-taped auditions are for those projects that are shooting out of state, or if your agent can't get you in, or if you don't have an agent and you're self-submitting, it's the perfect thing to do. The thing to look out for, and I know this sounds like a shameless plug for you, but I got to tell you, I cannot.
Oh, we'll cut this out. Don't worry.
Oh,
yeah.
You believe that?
Yeah, I
don't
do.
believe that for a second. No, I got to tell you how delighted I was at the quality of the sound and the picture of your EcoCasts.
Thank you.
Because that's the big criticism I have of self-taping. The light is crap. The sound is crap, and so you have to really go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of like headshots. You know, everyone has a digital camera. Everyone thinks they can take a picture,
right?
But they're not taking a good headshot.
But not.
You know?
I
so
think
they're self-taping, but it doesn't mean it's good. You want it to be at least technically be sound.
Right. And what I've done at home, like if we have to, we come here. But let's say we get something at the last minute. I have a Z8, a Kodak Z8, and the picture's very good because it's HD. And it has one of those UCB ports that flips up on the side, and I can download immediately if I want to. But the sound isn't good, so I've had to buy an external mic. So invest in that, invest in that, invest in that.
And learn how to do it yourself too.
And learn how to do it yourself, and place yourself in front of some good light with a nice background, and give yourself 4 or 5 takes. And mostly listen and respond and act as if that person you're actually in that situation and you're actually talking to that person. Be sure to have a good tail slate. A lot of people who are self-taping will require you to have a self-tape. I would say please pay attention to whatever instructions that the casting directors
sent with the
oh my gosh, the big mistake is that a lot of actors go, oh my god, I gotta roll, I gotta do it, and they're not paying attention, and it makes the casting director upset. So follow their directions, whatever they're asking you to do in terms of the slate or the tail slate or
I'm
how
not
they
an
want
actor.
it.
Expand a little bit. What's the difference, slate and a tail slate?
A slate is not normally done for TV and film, but
Okay.
for self-submissions it is. A slate is done at the beginning, and a tail slate is done at the end. And some people want both, but the tail slate, the slate itself is usually, hi, my name is Beverly Leech, I'm reading for the role of blah, 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 and you can reach me at, and they give you some like contact information, or you have it on a card underneath your face and throw it away. The tail slate is pretty much the same thing, but a lot of times they'll zoom out and they want a body shot, so you have to sort of make sure that you're dressed well enough to accommodate a nice pan and a zoom, because they want to know what you look like from the waist down, or how tall you are, and that sort of thing. The other thing I would have to say about self-taping is, again, even when you're in an audition situation with a casting director, if you go to the words first, you will fail. So you have to transition from your slate into, it's called the moment before, and most good actors who have been trained know what that is, but they still forget, especially in a self-taping thing. Go ahead and give yourself 5 seconds to transition from, hi, I'm Beverly Leech, I'm not crazy, you can hire me, into the situation and the emotional seat of the scene. Make eye contact, please make eye contact with your reader first, because it establishes chemistry. And then begin your first line. Don't do the first line until you have established the chemistry and placed yourself in the moment before, because that really gives a good starting point for the scene. And all of a sudden you've brought that atmosphere and you've changed the tone of the room. They don't care that you've got your words memorized. They want to know that there's a human being sitting in front of them that believes exactly what the script is telling them to see and respond to. That's it. But if you don't set it up for yourself, it won't be.
That's excellent. Excellent advice.
Yeah.
An ending over here. Is the book available now?
It is absolutely available.
Where can they get it?
Okay. You can get both of these things at Amazon. This is a CD MP3. But this book is now available on Amazon.com. And the CD is available on Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, all of that sort of thing.
These kids are pretty savvy these days. They'll find it. It's available.
Oh, it couldn't be easier to find. Yeah, Actor Muscle with Beverly Leech. Both of those things will show up on there.
Yeah, it's an excellent book, guys.
Thank you.
Starting out acting, even if you have been acting. No, there's great information in there. And I'll like it. I'm not an actor, so I could care less about acting information. This is more about the business.
You are pretty like shoot from the hip kind of guy.
This is a good getting into the business.
Thank you, I appreciate
and how to handle getting into the business. In closing, words of wisdom, advice to up-and-coming actors, people who want to go into the acting business?
Yeah, I have several things. I think that acting is one long decision. It's not one big decision, you know. So take the pressure off yourself that if you don't make it in 6 months or a year, you have failed. It's a long decision. You have to sort of play things out.
What's the definition of make it? You know, so.
Well, you have to decide for yourself what
Yeah.
the definition of
Yeah.
make it is. I don't think that fame is definitely necessarily making it, although it obviously is. But you know, there's a great quote. It says, "Fame is what others give you. Success is what you give yourself."
Okay.
I'm really a lifer. I love what I do. I love what I do. So even when I'm not working, I do things to make myself feel like a working actor. I stay fluid. I take classes. I engage in script analysis. I just keep myself curious. Keep myself curious and fluid. And that keeps me
Surround
ready.
yourself with like-minded people.
That's right. Stick with the winners, not necessarily people who are making $1 billion a year. It means people who are healthy. Yeah, I don't like teachers who tear actors down. I don't find that useful. I find find people who are truth tellers.
Okay. What's next for you?
What's next for me? Right now, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'm promoting this because it just released last week. I'm promoting the whole Rizzoli and Isles thing. I just signed with a new commercial agent, so I'm on that sort of like path. Everything sort of happened all at once. It was almost like going breach the birth canal. It was just like, because it's crickets or cannonballs. It's never like a smooth, you know, linear path. What's next for me is I just finished a bunch of new headshots because I recognize that the market is changing, and especially for my age category. You know.
What do you mean the market is changing?
The market is changing in terms of like there's a lot of more daring, grittier, darker, edgier.
I saw these new headshots. This is our friend Peter Konerko.
Peter Konerko.
Brilliant.
God, oh my
Brilliant.
God. So and I have such a nice, pretty girl, all-American girl next door kind of shot, you know, that Sons of Anarchy, Justify, they're going to go pass. Yeah. So I really invested in developing, because I have those character skills, I didn't have the marketing tools or the portfolio to reflect that, so that when the casting director picked up my picture, they'd say, oh yeah, she could do this show.
So have different looks, have different pictures.
Absolutely, have different tone and style, and don't be afraid to take a risk. And this whole next category for me, you know, for a long time I was a sort of considered a trophy wife, beauty queen, kind of girl next door look. And the truth is that gravity is taking hold, and it's true. And that's the reason I studied with Stella, because there was nothing. It was sad to me to watch beauty queens turn 40 or 50 and still cling to that and not have anything else to offer. So I developed all these great character skills, and I'm embracing my age. I'm just, my skin fits, damn it. It's just on me, and I'm embracing it. I'm taking that risk, and I'm going to enjoy the ride. Yeah.
Cool. There's tons more questions I have for you, but then we'll never sell a book. So there's great information here on agents, on managers, folks. If you're getting into this business, there's excellent, just street value knowledge about the business, you know. And thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, AJ. I really appreciate it.
And good luck with the book.
I really appreciate that. Knock on wood.